One of the most frequently asked questions that we ask ourselves is, who am I and where did I come from? Where did my family come from? And that's what this film is all about. You may be wondering why that man is beating the ground with a very large stick. Well, that man is my father, and he is trying to scare away the snakes.
My name is Thomas H. Brown. I was born in Darlington, South Carolina.
It's 100 degrees, so we are sweating profusely and being devoured by bugs, I might add. We actually just saw the silhouette of a large bird in the tree right above us. It made this weird sound, so it could have been a pterodactyl for all we know.
Hi, my name is Patricia Brown, and I was born in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Basically, we are deep in the woods in the middle of nowhere, and my father, like Indiana Jones, is searching every square inch of this forest, desperately trying to uncover.
With you by my side, I'm not worried. I think we'll be able to find ourselves again.
Before my mom and I went on the trip to North Carolina, I was asking her a lot of questions. I was trying to do a lot of research. And one of the things I asked was, what was the day like when I was born? When her water broke, my dad was taking some sort of computer class. That was 1980, so I'm wondering what type of computer class he could have been taking back then. I just imagine these, huge computers. It started to make me sad because as my mom told me all of these details about the day I was born, I was started getting sad for her because she really doesn't know much or really anything about the day she was born.
The one thing that I know about from my childhood is that I was born in L. Richardson Memorial Hospital.
All right, so when you come around this corner, you're gonna see it. How you think you're gonna feel?
I'm already excited.
All right, let's
Just
go.
being in the area.
Here it is. Oh, the bus is blocking.
Yes.
First, I went to Mayo High School in Darlington, South Carolina. And during integration in 1965, when the schools were integrated, my parents transferred me to the all-white school, St. John High School in Darlington, South Carolina. Because my parents allowed me to go to the all-white school, they were fired from their jobs.
I don't know much except that at one time it was the only black hospital in this area that took black people. And it was crowded at one time. They were just overwhelmed with patients because this is where everybody came. Some of what I read was that they had beds out in the hall because they had that many patients in the hospital.
What was it like being one of the only black students going to an all-white school? Well, first, the FBI had to escort me to my classroom. And when I would go to the cafeteria to eat my lunch, the white kids would get up and move. But I didn't let that bother me. I went there to get me a good education, and I did.
like it? You live here? How do you like it? He said it's all right.
Have you lived here all your life?
I moved to Greensboro now 5 years old.
Oh, 5 years old. Okay, so you've been here a long time. Huh?
And see, we moved away. Our parents moved away when I was probably about 4, and she was about 2. And so we haven't been back except to a wedding where we didn't get to see any of Greensboro. When,
Used to be a baby's hospital.
right, this is where we were born. Mm-hmm. Okay. He said it's all right. It's all right.
I wonder where Macon Street is.
And I'm sure it's over here in this area.
What's Macon Street?
Macon Street is the street we were born on. Well, the street our parents lived in when we were born. I guess that's the best way to put it,
Yeah.
is Macon Street. And all the people that we grew to know as, like, we called them our cousins, everybody lived on that street. From what I understand from Burnell, we all lived on that same street at one time or another.
Who's Vernell?
Vernell is, I call her my cousin, but through research and genealogy, I'm not really sure that she is related. But in those days, I'm assuming that we had to be a strong community together in order to survive, even here. So everybody that lived on that block became family. We came to kind of rediscover where we were born, or to find out more about where we were born. We don't know anything about my mom and dad. They didn't really talk much about their life here, so we don't know what they did here. I'm kind of thinking my mom was a homemaker for the first few years. I was born, and then 2 years later, my sister was born. So I'm kind of thinking that that's what she did, but I don't know what my dad did.
How do I want to be remembered? I would like to be remembered as a servant of God, going around trying to help people. Because Jesus said, if you want to be the greatest in the kingdom of heaven, you have to be a servant. When I was 15, I had a conviction to spread the gospel. I would go in the woods at night. They cut this oak tree down and left the stump, and I would go there and pray. And one evening, it was drizzling and rain, and it was getting dark, and my little brother, I would bring him with me, and he said, "Oh, it's raining out there. It's dark, and they got snakes." So I brought him anyway, and while I was praying, he was watching. Every Sunday after church, I would round up the kids and bring them to the house, and I would teach them their Lord's Prayer, and I would tell them about the Lord. And the reason why I gathered the children together, because some of their parents were alcoholics, they didn't take them to church, so I felt that they needed to be at church. And I was about 15 years old, and I got a little discouraged because they wouldn't listen. So I closed the church, but there was one little boy called Ronnie, and he was paying attention when I was speaking, when I was preaching. And when he got older, he accepted Jesus as his Lord and Savior and got saved. And he also became a missionary in the Bahamas. And although I closed the church back then, the work went on.
Cool about the trip with my mom and my aunt. Well, the first part that's really cool is that it's a treasure hunt. think the best part about this trip with my mom and aunt isn't the fact that we may discover something new about their past. It's just getting to spend time with them and getting to smile with them. After walking around downtown, we decided to go to Greensboro Historical Museum so we can learn more about the city.
I can remember, I've typed on this typewriter. This is an old Smith Corona. And I've typed on this IBM typewriter. And I have typed on that Remington. This is a Royal. And you type on the keys, and as you would on a keyboard almost, the same way. You just had to hit a up and down motion, because the keys, the way the keys are, they will stick together if you don't have a good flow. See, if you type too fast, you hit the keys and all the keys go up and they bunch up together. And then when you get to the end, it rings a bell and you hit the return and start all over again, and the ribbon goes around. When it gets to the end, it turns around and comes around, and then you use the ribbon again until it gets light, and then it's time to change the ribbon. A messy job. You don't want to do it. This is one of the problems with these because of the keys.
Now, if you messed up, what did you have to do?
Well, you had to roll it up, take some white out, put a little white out on there, and then try to line it back up together so you could type again.
I remember when I was younger, my father would take me fishing all the time. He bought me my first fishing rod when I was 2 years old. I think he may have overfished me. Growing up, my father would always tell me these great stories about how he spent a lot of his time as a child fishing. My dad and I must have fished in every inch of water available in Far Rockaway, Queens. The fact that I know his love for fishing came from his childhood made me appreciate it a lot more. I would really like to be able to put a picture to the locations where he had so many childhood adventures.
This is Swift Creek. This is where we used to fish. I know they had snakes roaming around here, but that didn't matter. We used to get a limb off a tree and we would put a line on it and a sinker and a hook. We caught catfish. We caught eels. The eels looked like a snake, you know. And then when we would get ready to go back home, we went in this path and they had little worms that had little lights on them. And they showed us the way home. And my first fish I caught was a little brim. And you couldn't tell me that I wasn't no fisherman. And I tell you, we had a great time fishing. Hey, I'm telling you, we had a great time fishing. And I even want to come back and fish some more. You know, if I just don't have time today, I don't bring my fishing pole. And but anyway, we had some great times fishing. And I'm quite sure y'all be glad to come here. Called Swift Creek. Amen. When it rains and the water get high, the water runs swift. And I just enjoyed myself from a kid fishing here at Swift Creek. Yeah, I'm gonna throw this little piece of wood in the water and you'll see a fish come to the top. See the fish came to the top? You see it? The fish came right to the top.
The Negroes employed at the Southern Railway Company's gates in this city have been discharged and their places filled by white men. It's a disgrace that all these black people that were holding jobs lost their jobs and now had to find other employment to support their families. It's heartbreaking, you know. I could just imagine, you know,
And why do you think this happened here at this time? This was like the early 1900s. Why do you think this happened?
I'm assuming that they had an influx of white people that came into the area and they couldn't find jobs. So they decided to let the black people go and hire the white people. That's the only thing that I could think of.
This creek is called Black Creek. If you look at the water is black. And we came here years ago, my father and I, and we caught red breath.
What year was it back then?
It was like in the early 60s. The early 60s, or it could be the late 50s. But we used to have great times coming down here fishing. One time, some of the kids came with me and we went fishing, and man, there was a water moccasin in the water, a water moccasin, all right? And we threw at the water moccasin, and then the water moccasin started coming at us. It was on this side right here. Man, we dropped our poles and we ran. We don't know where the water moccasin went, but we ran.
My mother and aunt visit Greensboro Botanical Garden to see some of the beauty of Greensboro.
We came to kind of rediscover where we were born, or to find out more about where we were born.
Change, and we do too. Reasons change, but we'll get through.
I was raised in the cotton field. I picked cotton, and it taught me how to work. And I remember my mother pulling me on her sack. I must have been about 6 months old, got a flashback, and I was crying. And it made me learn how to work.
I'm in too deep.
When I was about 14, I had my own landscaping business. My father bought a lawnmower, and he paid $90 for it. He said if I paid him half, he would let me have the lawnmower. So I would go to the neighbors, cut their grass, and people down the road, I would cut their grass. And I would always have money because I was a worker, amen, and I wanted to, I wanted to be somebody. My father's name was Robert Brown Sr. He was the first African-American policeman in Darlington, South Carolina. He was only allowed to arrest black people, but he felt that he should be able to arrest anyone that broke the law. So they fired him. But he always taught us that we was just as good as anyone else. We're looking for the police station where my father worked. And the only thing I can come about with is this parking lot right here, because the jail was right behind the police station, and which was right here at the Darlington County Historic Commission. That's where the jail was. So the only way I can come up with where it was is on this parking lot. That's the best place I think it could have been. But it moved to Pearl Street by the City Hall building. In the City Hall building, that's where the police department is right now.
So we visited the Darlington County Court to see if we could get some info from someone in there. Unfortunately, the guard on duty wasn't able to help, but my father remembered a story from back in the day when he used to walk past the county court as a child.
Now, I remember when I was 10 years old, and they had 2 water fountains there, one for colored and one for white. So I drank from the colored water fountain, and then I said, let me see how the white water tastes. So I took a drink from the white fountain, and it all tastes the same. That was doing segregation.
So my dad then thought that the old police department could have been where the Darlington News and Press currently is located. But nope, it wasn't there either. But we spoke to the receptionist at the News and Press, and she pointed us in the direction of the current police department and thought maybe they would know where the original police station was, or used to be. Now, our purpose for going to the police station is so that we can find out where the first, or it's probably not the first police station, probably the second police station in Darlington. It's now been torn down, but we at least want to find the location. But as we get into the police station, we start seeing all these photos on the wall. And the photos are from like the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s. So we start getting excited because we're like, we may find a picture of my father's father, my grandfather. And first, we get a little bit more excited because we see a picture of Malin Yarber, who is another black police officer who my grandfather actually trained. And my father told me that story lots of times. So we keep looking, and we get into some of the last photos, and we don't see my grandfather at all in any of the photos. So now my father is starting to get frustrated.
We was at the police department in Darlington, South Carolina, and we saw pictures on the wall. But my father wasn't in any of the pictures. But the policeman that my father trained, who was African American, he was in the picture, and they thought that he was the first policeman, African American policeman in Darlington, South Carolina. So I got a little upset.
My father, he's starting, you can just see him. He's just starting to boil. And he says, I know why my father is not on this wall. It's because they wouldn't allow him to arrest any white people. He felt he should be able to arrest everyone. That's why he's not on this wall. Now, of course, I know, and I'm pretty sure my father knows that it's not them, the people who are there right now. It's people from the past, perhaps, that may have kind of left my grandfather out, or it could have just been these are the pictures that they found up on the wall. But anyway, Mr. Washington, who's the police chief, said that my father and I probably should go to the historical center and see if we can find some photos. So we left, and while we're driving, my father's disappointed, but I'm having hope.
This is nice. Look at one of the go-karts. Look at this.
You used to use these? I know.
Yeah, that's a car right there. Darlington, South Carolina, the News and Press.
My grandfather was fired because back then he was very outspoken, and he felt that he should be able to arrest anyone who broke the law because he was a police officer. That was his job. So he shouldn't just be allowed to arrest one race. He should be allowed to arrest everyone who was breaking the law, so he could be equal just like everyone else. And I'm sure that's what's going through my father's head right now, is that because my grandfather was outspoken and felt that things should be equal, that he was erased from history.
Yay! Back it up. How did you get this? We had it in the collection.
Hey, Dad.
What's his full name?
Robert Brown.
Did he have a middle name?
I don't know. I never heard of the middle name.
Hey, Dad, what are you looking at right now?
That's my father.
No, but what are you looking at?
I'm
Like, what is
looking
it?
at police officers. And that must be from Darlington. That's him. He was
And who was your father?
he was the first African American policeman that was in Darlington.
Okay, read me what that says there.
Darlington County Sheriff Department and Darlington Police Department in the early 50s. Bundy Huntley of Darlington dropped this picture and several others by the News and Press after seeing Paul Howell recent feature stories on a sheriff race and the Liberal Theater.
Never in a million years would I have thought that our trip to Darlington, South Carolina would end up helping to correct the history books for the city. That's crazy.
Yeah, when I was first. This is the picture he was looking for, but it was another picture with 6 other police officers, African American.
And they're standing out in front of this building.
Yes. And see, they had to change it. Where's the other? They had to change it. They thought this was Mahlon Yarber. See, I have Mahlon Yarber. I like this one better.
Yeah, that is a better picture.
Yeah. This is my father, right here, at the end, picture right here. Robert, his name is Robert Brown Sr. And this was a picture that we've been looking for a while. And Mr. Gandy took his time at the Historic Commission Center to give us this picture. I have never seen this picture before.
How does it make you feel to see that picture?
It makes me feel so great. Although my father is not with me today, he's deceased, but it's worth everything.
And here's the picture of my grandfather, the first black police officer of Darlington, South Carolina.
Mr. Washington, I'd like to present this to you and let you know that we appreciate you being chief of police. And I just so thank you.
What is this? Tell them what it is. You got to tell them what it is.
This is the picture.
Oh, wow.
You had the picture of Mr. Mahlon Yarber.
Right.
All right? Now they made a change of it with this picture right here. This is instead of them calling him Robert Brown, they call him Mahlon Yarber.
Right.
And that's my father right there.
Wow.
All right? So I'm just saying they made a correction. That's my father. And then they have another picture of him. He's on the other side. That's my father.
Wow.
And I present this to you.
Okay.
And thank you.
And your dad was the first African American
Yes, sir.
police officer for the city of Darlington.
Yes, sir.
Wow, that's great, man. Thank you so much.
And he paved the way for you.
Absolutely.
And look where you at.
Absolutely.
Hallelujah.
Absolutely.
See how God worked?
Yeah.
He stood for something.
Right.
See, if you don't stand for something, you might fall for anything.
Exactly.
My trip with my mother is vastly different than my travels to my father's hometown. While my father has vivid memories from the place he was born, on this trip, my mother and my aunt only have clues from their past.
The address that's listed on our birth certificate is Macon Street. And we went back to try to discover the house that we lived in.
Because this one's 704 right here. That one's 704.
Oh, so 730.
Okay, so where my father's house that he grew up in was located is now a wooded area. So we go to where we hope his old house used to be, which is off of Red Street. And now there's a house there, someone's house is there now, and it is blocking the entrance to get to where his house was. So I'm in light sweats and a t-shirt. And so the plan is to go talk to the owners of that house, ask if we can go, look for where my father used to live, and then we're gonna go and change and put on, clothes to go in the woods with. So my father, I stay in the car, my father's talking to them, and then all of a sudden, I see my father shake hands with them, and then he just goes and walks into the woods. He just leaves. My dad is searching for the house that he grew up in. It was destroyed in a fire years ago, but my father is hoping he can find the foundation.
The foundation right here, that's the house right there. Look, this the house right here. Yeah, this is the foundation of the house where I was born at. This is 315 Red Street, Darlington, South Carolina.
I see in this backyard of this house that it looks like it could have been some foundation back here. So maybe this is where the house was and it was torn down and they just combined the property. But
because this looked like it might have been where the 730s, especially if it was a lot of little small houses.
Exactly.
This is the foundation where we live in Darlington, South Carolina. I was
born in this house right here. These are the pillars right here. As you can see, the chimney right here. Okay. And this is the front porch, which had this was the steps right here. Go up the steps and then was into the house. But these are the foundation bricks right here. And you see over there, that's a big oak tree. I mean, it's a real big oak tree, over 100 years old. And we used to have an electric pump there to pump the water. But the tree, rotten, died and it rotten.
I think I was more excited for my dad that he found his house than I was of actually being able to film him find his house. He was just so excited to be able to see it again. I mean, he had so many memories growing up there.
This is the oak tree. If you just look right there, it was over 100 years old, and they had a big electric pump there, and the water was very cold and very good water. Amen. And the oak tree, gave us plenty of shade. Amen. And somehow it died, and you can see part of the tree on the ground right there, and the oak tree is still standing, but it's not alive anymore. So we had a good time living here, on Red Street, and I don't know what we're gonna do in the future, whether I want to build a house or whatever, but this is our history.
So my mom was in North Carolina for 4 days, and I could only be there for 2 days because I had another project that I had to film back in Atlanta. So I had to leave, and I was pretty disappointed because I knew they were going to do a lot more searching when I wasn't there, and I really wanted to be there to film it. But once my mom got back from North Carolina, got back to Atlanta, she calls me and she's really excited, and she says she went and seen her old cousin. Well, what we thought was her old cousin, but after I went on Ancestry.com, we found out that she must have just been an old family friend that she started calling her a cousin. And she had something, and I was going to be really excited. So, of course, I was really disappointed that I couldn't have been there for the discovery, but I was still really excited about what my mother might have found. So she didn't tell me, and so I just drove over there as soon as I could so I could see what she had.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Ma?
Oh, after you left us in Greensboro, we went to see our cousin Vernell in, I forgot the little town, Siller City. That's where she lives. And while we were sitting there talking with her, she said, oh, I have pictures. I have all of these pictures. And y'all can go through and look through the album. And we started looking, and she came back from where she had gone into the back. And when she came back, she said, look at this picture. Who is this? And Yvonne and I both said, that's our mother. Right. And it's this picture. It's really old. I think she got it from her mother. And it's a picture of our mother. She must be about 17 or 18 here. And I want to have it redone, and I want to add some color to it. And it will be a picture of my mom.
All that searching we did down there. Mm-hmm. After I left, you finally found something from our family.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, this is a brick right here, and it come off the foundation of the house. And I'm going to take a brick with me. Give me a memory.
So, this is the brick that my father took. It's over 100 years old. It's dirty, so I have it in a bag. But yeah, this is the brick. This is a piece of the foundation from my grandfather and grandmother's house, and where my father and all his siblings were born. After this journey with my parents, I can now travel back in time to relive the stories of their past. And even better, I now have more stories for my daughter, more stories about her family's history. So now, I guess she's a time traveler too.
I think I will be holding on to